was in practice. I used to tell people all the time that's why they call it practice. And after 40 plus years of practice, I'm just starting to learn. So, uh, you know, don't worry. That's why we all are here having a embodiment in the first place, is to try to connect some dots. All
Oh,
righty.
okay. Okay. We are live. Yes, the learning never ends. We're here with our good friend Paula Pratt. This will be. I'm excited for this talk today. I'm gonna hit record, guys. Everyone, smash those thumbs up in the live chat, and tell your friends to come join us. This is going to be a talk for practical use in your life, so you never have to end up in the ER again, unless you've got like some crazy trauma happening. Of course, you might end up in the ER. But the idea here is to keep you out of the hospital, right, Paula?
That's right.
Uh,
And the dentist and the
Ooh.
doctor.
yes. Okay, here we go.
We should have an FDA disclaimer on all hospital doors.
You got that right. Yeah, where's their duty to notice, right? They're doing damage. Here we go. And boom, we're back for another episode of Alfacast. I'm Mike Winter, and I'm here as always with the champion of truth, justice, and peace, Dr. Bear Paul Lando, coming to you live and direct.
Mike, you never fail to amaze me with your superlatives that you come up with every week.
I go from the top of my head down to the bottom of my feet, my friend. I just feel out what makes sense to me, and nothing we do here is really pre-planned. It's all kind of flow of consciousness. So yeah, whatever
That's for
comes
sure.
to me in the moment. But those are all truths that I say, and it's a blessing to be here once again with you, Bear, as we do another Alfacast here with our good friend Paula Pratt today, coming to you live and direct from the great state of Jefferson, where freedom still reigns supreme. On another glorious summer day. We had that heat spell that hit us pretty good around the 4th after Music and Sky. But I will say, I know you're a little warmer over where you're at, Bear, but all this fear talk about it being the hottest summer of all, I judge from my personal experience. I'll say every day since that heat spell ended, that like 7, 8, 9, 10 day heat spell ended, it's been in like the high 70s every day here. We're a little more coastal than you at the farm, but it's been a glorious summer, and we couldn't be happier with it. So maybe I know there are places that are frying. I don't know about you down there where you're, Paula, but from my personal experience, this might have to do with the consciousness we brought to this place. We want it to be perfect, and pretty much it is. So here's to living your life as you choose and as how you make. And Bear, I see you got your fuzzy friend with you there on your lap.
This is the CEO of Alfa Vedic right here.
And gets paid in the best biscuits money can buy.
Absolutely.
Alpha dog. Alpha pooch. We may have a visitor, Paula, in a bit. Mango may make an appearance.
Oh, I would love to see Mango.
I know Paula has shown interest in our kitty. If we do decide that we can't handle him, Paula is got first dibs for sure. But yeah, we're very excited about this talk today. If you guys are new to Alfa Vedic, check us out, alfavedic.com. We've got all sorts of new products on the way recently. Actually, speaking of pooches, Bear, we released our new product, the C60 Pet Essentials, which we're very happy about because we love our four-legged friends. This is a one-of-a-kind product that I've never seen out in the market, Bear. You put a lot of time and effort into this. Not that we need to go into a deep commercial on it, but I thought because we're honoring our four-legged creatures today, do you want to give the audience, before we bring Paula on, just a quick preview or breakdown of that? Because Paula, I know you're a pet animal lover, and this might even play well into our talk today a bit.
Yeah, so real quick, it is carbon 60 in olive oil, and complexed into it are organic plant-based vitamins and fulvic minerals, and all in a liposomal delivery system. So all you need is a few drops, depending on your pet's size. And it's what I created for my dogs. And I could tell you all sorts of anecdotes about how it's helped them. But yeah, it's first of a kind out there. And my only misgivings about it is after the fact, somebody made a suggestion for a different name, which I wish I would have thought of. And they thought you should call it Alpha Dog. So maybe the next time I make some labels up.
But we wouldn't want to forget our other little feline friends.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
might
We
feel
don't want to
left-
slight
feel
our
left out.
feline friends.
Or our little rodent friends. Some people, I think you could, you'd be surprised what people consider pets these days. Ask
Now,
Richard here.
we've had quite a number of people actually calling in about that product and saying, can I take this myself? And actually, we made a test batch of it, and I have a bunch of bottles. Deb and I use that every day for ourselves because it's got carbon 60, the vitamins, the fulvic, everything all in one place. And the fulvic delivery system really makes a difference. And we're going to have a lot of propaganda videos that we'll make available soon and show you how we're doing alchemy with sound waves these days and making some really amazing stuff. So, Mike, take it away.
Beautiful. Yeah. And we'll be touching on all of that today a bit as we are moving into a new realm of medicine, of self-discovery and independence from the medical cabal, which is very exciting. And that we'll be touching a lot on that today with these technologies and these practices based on the terrain and not so much in the particle reductionist physical chemistry model that the allopathic system thrives on or does not thrive on. That is not the word. Well, it thinks it's thriving on, but it's doing the opposite. Well, first and foremost, though, Alfa Vedic is a health and wellness platform grounded in permaculture farming with decades of clinical practice in Bioterrain Medicine. Bioterrain Medicine is founded on the knowledge and application of nature's 4 regenerative pillars: hydrogen, oxygen, inorganic elements, and organic matter. On this Alfacast, Paula Pratt, founder of the SUPERPOWERED Self-Healing Club, brings her years of experience in the use of ozone therapies, somatics, and New German medicine to further our prior discussion on the essential role of ozone within the field of bioterrain medicine. We did do a talk with she and Toby, right, from Promo Life about a year ago about ozone hydrogen that was very much geared towards we touched on a lot of the traditional science, and really it was a great precursor to today's deeper talk. So if you want to, if you're listening to this and you want to hit pause on this and go watch that first, you can go to alfavedic.com/alfacast and just run a search on Paula's name or on ozone and it will pop right up. Paula Pratt is a sovereign systems designer, therapist, speaker, author, and permaculturist, adept in remote viewing with a passion to help people engage in the correct use of home ozone therapy systems. We'll contrast the therapeutic use of both hydrogen and oxygen/ozone while lending further depth in drawing parallels in the role of these elements in the larger etheric mechanism. Beyond the basic elemental effects on physiology, Polla will share a more dynamic application of these oxidative therapies to expedite beneficial change to the entire mind-body continuum through her unique synthesis with other modalities. Central to this not-to-be-missed roundtable will be the at-home techniques and modalities as we enter a new paradigm of self-healing and responsibility, and once and for all end the medical mythology of quote-unquote disease. Dr. Bear Lando, please take it away, my friend.
Paula, so wonderful to have you here. We had a great, almost a full podcast amongst ourselves before we came on today. So hopefully we can remember some of the stuff we're talking about. You can always tell a genuine practitioner, healer, whatever term you favor, by their ability to create a synthesis, amongst many components and see the fractal nature, we'll call it, between all things as above, so below. And you're one of those rare people, even amongst holistic practitioners, we'll call it, that understand the parallels between how we conduct ourselves in the public world, the things we get into and, the legal structures, how we take care of our own bodies and how we deliver health support to other people. And I could go on, but I really respect you for that. You just get it at the deepest level. And we were talking a little bit about our backgrounds and the fact that we're all just trying to figure this out together. I myself, I'm still working on it and feel like I'm in a place in my life where I can just begin to learn. And I'd like to start off this day, this talk today, in a way that might seem a little bit off topic, but I hope to bring it back as quick as possible and, show how it has everything to do with everything. This morning, I woke up with a bear in my yard, and it was very unusual because they're nocturnal, usually not once the light, comes up. So there it was, and I'm like, okay, that's weird. And we're also noticing that animal life everywhere is acting kind of weird. We have a sister farm over in Maui with a good friend of ours in Hana, and she's saying they're inundated with fire ants, and they've got white deer that are starting to be a nuisance. They're coming down, from the highlands and Haleakala there. I noticed that this year, certain plant life that we're growing is acting different and not as prolific. We're still getting a good yield, but not what it was in past years. Also, at a specific time every night, we hear the hum of airplanes, and we know they're aerosolizing things over us. And we know darn well that's poisoning the ground. We live in a very pristine wilderness area, and we also grow very sensitive herbs and plants, and similar to our friend in Hana and Maui, same thing. And being on an island that's even more fragile, we get different feedback from our operations than say somebody on a homestead in Missouri raising hogs. It's just more delicate, so we get more of a sensitive observation of how the earth is being affected by all these things. Now we're all preoccupied now with elections and World War III and so forth, but meanwhile, those of us that live within the natural order and interact with it all day long, we've got bigger fish to fry, even more than a selective nuke hitting a city somewhere, which would be most unfortunate. On the other hand, our entire environment that sustains us is being systematically and purposely destroyed. Now, what's that got to do with ozone? Well, the fact is, and this is where I'd like our talk to go a little bit, if you understand the deeper implications of what ozone and hydrogen as well, we're going to talk about it in a therapeutic context, but those are very important or basic components of the etheric medium that precipitates life as we know it directly from our consciousness, so we can have our experience and sustain ourselves. So we're tampering with the primary creative mechanisms of life, and that also gives credence to why we might, for our own biological systems, want to start supplementing ourselves with those elements that are now short, so that we don't have to succumb as readily to what's happening around us. Now, just like a fish in water that is sustained by that medium, we are constantly in a sensitive feedback loop with not just our ecosystem, but the ether that is a living sentient substance that we are literally swimming in. And we have altered that etheric medium, and our bodies rely on that medium, and we have altered the energetic properties of that medium. It's not just that there's a little less, oxygen in the atmosphere. To be precise, I think some people put a number of about 40% less oxygen in the atmosphere than 100 years ago, and so forth. So let's take it from there. And then what I love about your work, Polla, is that you've integrated it, the use of these elements with other work, somatics and so forth. So that's what we want to hear from you today. And maybe for folks that missed our first episode with you, you can give a little bit of a background where you come from and maybe, direct where you'd like things to go. But I look forward to this. It's going to be a great conversation. So introduce yourself, if you wouldn't mind, to our audience. It wasn't around the last time.
Wow. Okay. Well, you know what? I remember on the last podcast, really, we were supposed to be talking about the basics of ozone. I think that was the understanding. And then we just ended up talking with you. We ended up talking mostly about the esoterics of ozone, because that's what I'm really fascinated with, and you know so well. So I got into ozone about 11 years ago. I had a worldview collapse after practicing regional economic development on a rural city, state, and country level internationally, and was pioneering these new living systems-based models and based on self-organization and somatic self-governing systems and self-sustaining systems. And it was going really well. And I was able to help create an accelerated human change process. But after about being in it for about 6 years, I realized that I was helping to merge the public and private sectors together. And I thought it was a really good thing. At first, I thought, oh, okay, bring the public and private sectors together and build trust and collaboration. That sounds like a great thing. But after a number of years, I saw that what I was doing was I was helping to merge the money, power, policy, and leadership on regional levels. And this was the fastest growing economic methodology in this realm, and called cluster economics. And so I could see, wow, this is actually heading towards one centralized top-down power over economic train that will crush us all. This was 25 years ago. And so when I saw that coming, it collided with a time where I had like a full mouth of mercury fillings taken out all at once and taken out the wrong way. And so that combined with just like, I don't believe in this world anymore. I can't do what I'm doing. I know that we need to be moving towards local living economies. And so I was studying Richard Heinberg's work in peak oil at the time, and just realizing how the party's over. And here we are now, 20 something years later. But I became chronically ill. My body just broke down because my mind, I didn't even want to be here anymore. I could see what was coming. It was really daunting. I'm aware of the military industrial complex and a lot of the things that they've been inventing and bringing forward, and the DARPA and the chemtrails and all these agendas that are coming, the 5G. I could see it all kind of coming together. So my worldview diminished, it broke down, my health broke down, and I moved out of this moldy place that I was living in. Mold's not what we've been told. Limes is not what we've been told. Like nothing is what we've been told. And so I've been learning so much over the years. When I first started Ozone, all there is out there on ozone therapy is 99.9% based on germ theory and killing germs. And it still is 99.9% based on the Madrid Declaration, which it's an international organization that regulates all the medical and educational institutions' use of ozone. And they're all what I call killing doses, right? So it was about 8 years ago that I learned about terrain and the terrain paradigm. And then that made sense because I had a background in systems science and living systems principles. I'm like, oh yeah, the organism and environment are one of the same. You know, the celestial bodies, the earth body, our flesh body, they're all one of the same whole body. They're one of the same system, and they all work together. And so terrain paradigm made a lot of sense. And when I started incorporating, I started looking at my body, what I was doing with the ozone, I started integrating it all. And I started finding a whole nother way. We're really bifurcating from the old worldview of, entropy and Newtonian, Cartesian, the split up world that everything is death and dying, it's going into decaying, so it's like a run for resources, get the resources while you can from the earth because we're all going to die anyway. That's an old worldview that just doesn't make any sense. I understand that we are in a conscious living universe, and that everything is spiraling into higher and higher levels of life form and complexity and fluidity and coherency and intelligence. And like the microzymos, we don't die. We just keep forming into higher and higher levels of life form and intelligence. And so that started fitting into kind of how I was using the ozone, understanding it, that we want to use the ozone for life affirming doses to support all of the life that's within us, not to kill anything. That's the old paradigm of the war and the killing and the cutting out and the old health paradigm. So things radically started changing in how I started using ozone. And I've been a somatic trauma practitioner for over 25 years. And so somatics is really the way that we become our own best doctor. And it's how we dose the ozone. It's how we use the ozone. No external force or no external ideas of what dose we should be using, because it's through our felt sense present moment experience and having that whole brain, biological body-based conversation with our autonomic nervous system that we can know inside of ourselves whether we should increase the ozone or decrease it, or we should back off, and how to use it. So I guess I'll just add one more component. About 4 years ago, I was at the first Music in Sky down in Joshua Tree, and I heard Melissa Sell get up on the stage, and she started talking about German New Medicine. I'm like, what? Oh my gosh, why haven't I heard about this before? So it made so much sense. So I started incorporating that thinking into the model. And I know that the map is not the territory, but German New Medicine offers a really great reframe. As a somatic trauma therapist, people coming into my practice with ozone, it's like, hey, what's really going on? They come in, I got lung cancer, or I got autoimmune, or I got all these different diseases. I'm thinking it's not these disease labels. It's not that. So German New Medicine helped me to get closer to what they call as a biological conflict, which is trauma. And so it helped me to orient quicker. And I don't know German New Medicine. I'm not a specialist in it. I have a rough understanding of it. And I'm in a do-it-yourself practice. I like to teach people how to do everything themselves. And so I would just refer people out. You got what? Well, I would go get your German New Medicine reframe or re-diagnosis on that, and then come back and let me know if you need some help unpacking that. And then we can better understand how to use the ozone and the somatics together. So that's a nutshell.
That was an amazing encapsulation. And if our audience could just glock everything you just said, it would be game over. Our world would be transformed. I mean, you said it all wonderfully. So thank you for that. Boy, now I'm at a loss almost where to start. What would be great is maybe let's get into some of the nuts and bolts of, how you apply ozone and how that would relate, or let's just say integrate intelligently with the other things that you do that work on the emotional plane and so forth. I might be able to add a little color commentary along the way as far as how those elements represent exact etheric levels that are mimicked within our own biological etheric mechanism, and how it has everything in the world to do with consciousness, emotions, and how our biology, is finally reflected and all that. So maybe if you could start off by telling us, how you go about using it.
Well, I first sit myself personally, or with how I teach it, or.
Well, let's just say as a practitioner with
Yeah.
other folks, and I'm especially interested, and I think other people are as well, how you integrate ozone. Now we know ozone. Okay, so last time we started getting off in tangents, and that's kind of my fault probably. So if maybe go into the nuts and bolts of ozone first, just ozone itself, maybe that we bypassed last time, and we'll take it from there.
Well, I think you can better explain the chemistry. Me, I am a healing arts practitioner. I am more of a right brain relational therapist or guide. And the way that I start is I help people to what I call sit and slack. I help them to hook their upper brain with their lower brain, their conscious mind with their subconscious. The healing self-healing happens in the subconscious. We know that 1 to 4% of our human consciousness and awareness and all of our relations and communications is it's only 1 to 4%. And then the 95 to 99% of our communication and our relations and what's going on is subconscious, pre-programmed, and hardwired. So the brave new territory is within us. And the merging of the celestial bodies with the earth body through our flesh body happens through this whole brain conversation. And I love how you're bringing in the esoterics of it, the ether, the ozone effects. The more ozone, not the more ozone I do, that the way that I use ozone affects my etheric connections and relations. I've been channeling my own Akashic records for 7 years, and ozone has a direct correlation with my level of connection, my level of coherency, and my ability to translate light waves into meaningful terms, into language. And so ozone can elevate our consciousness, and it can elevate all of our systems functioning. So I use somatics to be able to have the whole brain, whole body conversation. And that's what I call terrain, is all of these elements, the celestial, the earth, the flesh, the whole brain. When we hook up our whole self and begin this whole systems conversation, and we set up these feedback loops, then as a practitioner, I can ask body-based questions, and I can get different sets of feedback that help me understand how to apply the ozone or how to suggest. And then I use inquiry, somatic-based inquiry, exploration, and discovery to help whoever I'm sitting with to use their systems intelligence to guide the use of the ozone and the oxygen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it makes total sense. And, you know, as physician types, we're taught in our medical training to be indoctrinated into mechanics, basically. And our entire mindset is based on electromagnetics. Now, electromagnetics are that, as we explain a lot on this platform, it's two waveforms, you know, one going longitudinally, the other perpendicular, and that's kind of a technical thing, but that creates a mechanism that we call toroidal field that compresses information or data that's coming through the etheric so that it precipitates into our from our consciousness into our experience and our biology. On the other side of that, though, is what you discuss as a practitioner, the way you work. You kind of don't keep yourself exclusively in electromagnetics, but you go into the direct vibrational experience, which is the other polarity of electromagnetics. And that resonance or that vibrational is multidimensional. And that is where all information comes from to create the electromagnetics in the first place, but it's not confined to a pulsating electromagnetic linear cause and effect frame of the movie that we are to confuse things even more. We're all indoctrinated to interpret those events that we get in through our senses. So we have preconceived notions that do not allow us to go into the pure resonance that would have unlimited solutions and effects. And as a practitioner, you know, we really need to go into that other side. And I hear what you're describing is that's where you go, and you can't teach that. And we can say, well, I graduated from MIT or Stanford or, you know, all these places. Well, great. You know, you're indoctrinated very firmly into one side of the coin, and probably so much so that it's now impossible for you to step into where that all came from in the first place. So the way you learn that is becoming a tradesman. And in my work over the years, I considered myself a tradesman. You know, that's just pure and simple. I always describe myself as a blue collar physician. You know, you roll up your sleeves, you go to work, and then you learn how to access that other part. And I think that's what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so amazing what you've just said, because I understand some of it, but not all of it. The terms that you're using and but it resonates with me what you're saying, and it's fascinating how you understood how I'm working with it all. I think that, you know, I do teach this. I teach people how to how to somatically, how to connect with themselves, and then how to apply the ozone. So I've just created a new a home ozone private master class. So to teach people exactly this, how to become their own best doctor. And yes, it's nuanced. And yes, it's layered, and it does become a multidimensional at some place. So if people are open to it, I understand, and tell me if this resonates with you, that the ozone, the oxygen, they're alive and they are conscious. We are told in the allopathic world, the old world, that they're dead inert gases and they need to be regulated. They need the top-down regulation. No, they're conscious, they're alive, everything is alive. And they innately know and innately go to where we need them the most, and they prioritize in everybody's body differently. So the better somatic trackers we are, the better terrain trackers we are, the better we're able to track where it went and what it did and what order it did it in. So this is what is mastery, right? And then when we get into more esoteric realms, then it really takes it to another level. And I do believe that how you started this whole podcast with the elements, the ozone, the oxygen, the hydrogen, right? All of the elements, and that they're being compromised. So adding them to our boosting our lives with them can make all the difference in the world. And so how the ozone affects my own biocosmic conductivity, communication, co-creation is amazing. And so I'm getting these downloads that are telling me how to trailblaze the transition into the new free world destined to be created. I do believe that the way that we create this new world is by opening our biocosmic conduits and becoming them, embodying them. The sacred singularity is the merging of the celestial bodies with the earth body through our flesh body. And if we open our flesh body and we oxygenate it, and we keep it properly hydrated and oxygenated, ozonated, which is just a more dense form of oxygen, a more nutritious, fortifying form. At the last Music and Sky, I was so excited because everybody, when I did my presentation on the superpowered self-healing, it's like, how many people have heard of ozone? Oh, almost everybody. How many people have heard of somatics? Almost everybody. How many people have heard of Bioterrain Medicine? Oh, everybody. How many people have heard of German New Medicine? Almost everybody. No other group I have ever talked to knew all of them, and it's because of you two and all of the work you've been doing over the years to educate this community. And it was just amazing. So we just really, the conversations that happened at Music and Sky were so inspiring, and people are ready for the esoterics of ozone. And I know that if with a higher level of consciousness in that Music and Sky community, your Alfa Vedic community, they're ready for this. And they're ready to take themselves to the next level. They're ready to increase their multidimensionality and their ability to articulate it, and to pull in these infinite intelligences that are unseen, the vast, infinite, unseen world that is just waiting. It's right there to support us in bringing in this new world. We don't do it alone. We have tons of support. So
Yeah, there's nothing like the Music and Sky community.
no, really
so
amazing.
Before we jumped on, speaking of Music and Sky, I think this might be good to define ozone a little more. We did it in the first episode in a little more traditional way, and we did get in the esoterics, and Bear really laid it down on that one. But it might be a good either refresher or even expand on that for people in the chat asking, well, what is ozone? We might even start with the traditional mainstream definition and then touch on where you guys want to take it. And then I'd like to touch a little bit on the alchemical air side. But Paula, did you want to start with that, or maybe even tell your story with Steve that we touched on before we went live?
Sure, I'll tell my story about Steve, but I think that Bear could definitely service the question about what ozone is better than I. I'm not so chemically minded. But so we were at Music and Sky. What?
No, please go ahead.
We were at Music and Sky. Which one was it, Mike? It was in last. It was the one last August.
The 4-element one, the one where we faced all the elements. So that was 2023 in east of Santa Barbara.
Was it Hurricane Hillary?
Yeah, it was Hurricane Hillary, followed by insane winds, and then a brush fire across from the highway. and then an earthquake, and then we got hit with torrential rains on Sunday. So we got hit with all 4 elements. But what was carrying us through the entire event was the 5th element, which was the divine spirit of our community. And it was a phenomenal event. Of course, Bear couldn't make it because we were evacuated from the farm as fires were. The
Yeah.
Smith River complex was bearing down upon us. My town was completely evacuated while I was headed to the event. We've documented this plenty on the show. But so you were there with our good friend Steve Young, aka Headflux, who was performing, who had a hell of a time to get there because he was dealing with all sorts of visa issues and nonsense. But he made it in the final hour, so he was there, which was awesome. And so here we are, torrential downpour. You guys are huddling in the teepee, right?
Yeah, well, it was like, oh my gosh, look at that with that cloud. We were like, oh my gosh. I said, can you help me get my billboards down? So we ran over, and Owen's sister from Ireland was there too. So we ran over to my billboards. We had a drill gun. Steve's like, give me the drill gun. So we took everything down. It was like, oh, here it comes. So we just ran into the teepee. We were in there, and we were like, okay, wow, that we're going to be in here for a while. What are we going to do? And I said, hey, you know what? My ozone stuff's in here. You want to do some ozone? And Steve says, what's ozone? I said, oh, well, ozone's a triple oxygen molecule. He says, there's no molecules, Paula. And I said, oh, okay. Okay. Well, then what is it then? He goes, oh, I don't know. So I've had more conversations with him since then about it. I've actually been talking with him more frequently, unpacking a lot of stuff, and especially around his new book and around fluid undulations and somatics and everything like that. But he describes ozone as just a more dense form of oxygen, and it's therefore more nutritious. So I'm now describing it as an activated oxygen, and that it's more dense and more nutritious and more stronger, and it's more fortifying. So if you elevate your consciousness and then you add ozone, you're going to fortify that new level of consciousness, because the ozone is going to follow and fortify whatever it is that the higher levels of thinking and co-creations, all of it. So that's what I got.
Yeah, and most simple, ozone is, if you go into stupido molecular theory, it's 3 oxygens, right? O3.
Yeah.
And when you take in O3, theoretically, the 3rd oxygen breaks off. You get an abundance of O2, regular oxygen, that, oxygenates your tissues, arrests anaerobic activity, which in Bioterrain Medicine, it's not that good when things start fermenting because there's a lack of oxygen, because then the body has to kind of wall that off. It becomes toxic, and then sooner or later it might even create some tissues and things that have more cells to bring in oxygen, and then our brilliant doctors say, oh my God, you've got a tumor, when in fact the body's just trying to bring in oxygen to arrest fermentation. So if you go in and bring in supplemental oxygen with O3, not a bad idea. And then also the 3rd oxygen breaks off and starts scavenging biotoxins and things. It degrades them so the body can eliminate it. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts physiology of it. What we have to understand, and this will get more into woo-woo, but isn't it interesting that everything that we think is science is actually an inversion of science? Because we're taught that, like what I'm about to go into is going to be extreme woo-woo, but in fact, it's more grounded science. And then we're supposed to believe that that other electromagnetic phenomenon that we see, which is actually a mirage, we're taught that no, that's the real, without considering that that wouldn't even be a mirage within our sensory apparatus unless the other woo-woo stuff created it in the first place. So everything's been inverted, and it's really unfortunate. So we're it's MK Ultra stuff is what it is.
It's also based on straight
Mike.
up lies, the atomism and molecular weight and the whole periodic table and all the stuff with theoretical physics, as Steve has specifically pointed out. It's corrupted lies built on an infrastructure and a foundation of lies. So it's, you know, it's pure evil in a way.
It's
I don't
been
even
adequately debunked many times. Go ahead, Paula.
I don't even know how to talk about ozone anymore, right? Because I've been explaining it the same way, that the triple oxygen molecule and then the third oxygen molecule that makes ozone, it breaks off quickly and it does all these other things. And right, so I don't know how to describe it anymore other than it's dense. I'm in a kind of a new phase. So I was hoping that you might be able to
Well, well, that's a good thing that you can't, or that you don't feel comfortable describing it in those terms because it's all BS anyway. So let's get into the other side of it. Ozone, like any molecule, as we allege, is a waveform. And we don't have to get into waveform mechanics and everything, but it would be much more elegant and easy to understand if we talked in terms of waveform mechanics. Now, waveforms are created by conscious beings. There are conscious beings in the atmosphere, not in human form. We can call them elementals. In Ascended Master teachings and other spiritual teachings, they call them sylphs, the elementals of the atmosphere. They, with their consciousness, use the first layer of the ether, which is electricity, that is can be paralleled with the hydrogen atom, as we want to think of it in those terms, and that is the fire element, which in old alchemy is the term they used. The fire element now takes idea from a consciousness and creates a little spark. Now it goes to the next level of ether, which is nitrogen, also again a waveform created by the consciousness of these elementals that are achieving their conscious immortality, just like we are, and we're doing it in conjunction and supporting each other in the ascension process. And now that nitrogen level is what coagulates. It's a coagulation. We could describe this in chemical terms, how that involves ammonia compounds and everything, you know, in the atmosphere in order to eventually precipitate matter. So that nitrogen now, it goes down to the next level of the ether, and another waveform is precipitated in the process. That's called oxygen. Oxygen is the water element, and the nitrogen is the air element, hydrogen, the fire element. So down to the water element, that is the transmitting utility that takes idea from consciousness, from the coagulation, and now transmits it down to the final south pole of the etheric medium. And that then is what we equate with carbon or matter, so-called. And it's all under the direction of...
What did you say is the transmitting medium?
Water, which is correlates with oxygen. That's where ozone comes in. So if you are lacking oxygen, it's like having a letter or something that, you know, there's no mail carrier to deliver the message. So that's why water is such an important phenomena on our planet. It is the conduit between consciousness and precipitation. So then if you correlate that with the etheric corollary that makes up our biological selves, the same thing's happening. But instead of talking about hydrogen, you know, we're talking about the mental plane. You know, nitrogen, more with the astral plane and the emotional, you know, part of our being. And that emotion gives thought bubbles velocity, it animates them, it coagulates the information, so then it can be carried through to the etheric medium, which is the water element, which is oxygen, and then precipitates actually into our biology, or what we think of ourselves as carbon-based organisms. So, I mean, that's real science. It can be demonstrated, but more important, people like yourself know how to work with those elements and, you know, couple them with helping people process biotoxins, emotional toxins. You know, New German Medicine, as you're talking about, is that missing link that actually explains how, you know, things happening in the astral then are picked up and expressed through the biological, actually as a, part of a fixing mechanism. So maybe now if we could segue into, what you're teaching and supporting people to be able to do this, themselves as far as self-healing, that'd be awesome.
Sure. What, how can I unpack that? Should I just,
Well, don't try to, not what I was saying so much, just as far as how you would work with people in your school, your coursework, just helping them get there, not in a left brain way, but helping facilitate those light bulbs on that other unlimited part of ourselves come on.
I think this is the most succinct way I might be able to do that. If I may just screen share, I have got 10 modules in this
Oh, amazing.
training, and I could just go over them maybe like in a minute or two and just kind of swing by them and just kind of hit them. I've designed this. My master's is in whole systems design. So I'm a somatic based whole systems process designer and facilitator. And I know that's a mouthful, but basically everything that we do happens through process. So when I was in economic development, I learned to cater to the brainstem because that's where the deep subconscious somatic safety is, right? And subconscious somatic safety is the key to the story. The deeper the level of subconscious somatic body level safety that we have, the deeper the level of trust. And the deeper the level of trust, the deeper the level of collaboration and risk-taking and innovation and productivity and prosperity. So these are the systems models that I developed some 25 years ago and still use. So everything is about developing deeper levels of trust in us, especially as we enter into the time of divine cataclysm. Somatic self-regulation is I believe, the most important skill that we can have so that we can stay safe inside of ourselves and stay present in the moment. Because if we're not safe, then we start to split off and we start to get triggered. And when we're triggered, we're in the past and we're running unresolved issues from the past, and we can't create a new free world when we're bringing the unresolved past into it. So that deep level of safety is key. Somatic self-regulation and being able to come back into the present moment is key. And it's all key to using ozone. It's all the same stuff. It's just mastering the meat suit. And there's Polla, and then there's the essence and spirit of Polla, and then there's the meat suit operation, right? There's that mechanical piece. And I like to separate them so that we don't get confused. So if I can I just run through this curriculum really quick?
Please.
Can I share? Okay, let's see here.
You should be able to share, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the first module, I've got 10 modules and then a bonus module, right? So the first one is become your own best doctor. This is like the single most important thing you can do. And that's somatics. It's learning to hook our upper brain with our lower brain and to have a direct conversation with our subconscious healing systems, right? So it's a core practice for, like I was just saying, somatic self-regulation, somatic trauma resolution, and doing it yourself, home ozone therapy practices. And the next module is with Dr. Maryzel Arce. She's a naturopathic medical doctor and specializes in biological terrain. I know you guys know her because you had her on the end of COVID. And that's where I met her and just love her so much. So I had asked her, just as a systems designer, it's like, I'm looking at bioterrain is so huge. There's not even like one definition out there of it, I don't find. So I had asked her, is there any way that you can write up like the 10 steps to undiagnosing yourself using bioterrain? She said, yeah. So she did. And that's what this module is. And she teaches this one. And then I asked German, so we become our own best doctor, then we undiagnose ourselves of all these disease labels that we have. Then we re-diagnose ourselves and get to the real root of our emotional and psychological dis-ease. And so a German New Medicine invited Dr. Melissa Sell and asked her to write up the 10 steps to re-diagnosing yourself. And so she did. Amazing. She wrote a 27-page PDF and she just outlined everything. So it's packed with resources. And so she teaches that module in this training. So we learn how to conduct our own health intake. And this is pre-ozone. We want to know what's in our bodies. What are we going to be oxidizing, metabolizing, eliminating? What's our basic overload? Do we have overload of stress? Do we have overload of toxins? Are we dealing with deficiencies? What's really going on in our mental, emotional, all our etheric, our spiritual, our connection with the divine, our total terrain. So we want to know what's going on, and people can learn to do this themselves. This is the template that I use in my own practice. And then we design our own superpowered self-healing process or program. And so I just give you a template, a questionnaire, and a process on how to do this. We're bringing in all the German New Medicine, the Ozone, the Somatics, and the Bioterrain. Then I teach people how to chart your own treatments. It's imperative that people chart every single treatment, because you're going to have a breakthrough, or you're going to have like a Herxheimer reaction. You're going to want to know how you got there. And I learned the hard way by not tracking my treatments and just going for it when I first started. And I created this really succinct, this is what I use in my professional practice. It's just the quickest and easiest way to chart your own treatments so that you can stack, pack, and track your progress and make your own best dosing decisions. And then a module on mastering home ozone therapy. And it's really just going about ozone the right way. And it's a terrain-based way. And it's a somatic-based way. It's incorporating the terrain and German New Medicine and low dose, slow over time. No killing doses. We're not killing anything. And that's a huge reframe in the use of ozone therapy. Like I said, 99%. 99.9% of all the information on ozone therapy out there on the web, and the doctors, practitioners, and people using it are basing it on what they're reading on the web, which is all about germ theory-based use and killing things inside of us. I mean, that's not so if you have the wrong paradigm, then you got the wrong premise, you got malpractice. So here, and then I've got 3 bonuses down here. The first one is make your own best medicine. And this really is just how we can use our own innate intelligence, hooking our upper brain, lower brain, whole brain, and somatic awareness to activate our own natural pharmacy within us. And we can learn how to somatically resource ourselves and to make and deliver our own, like right on time and just as needed, perfect custom, curative cocktails. So this is another somatic skill that helps the ozone, right? If we're relaxed and our tissues are soft, there's going to be more perfusion of the ozone and the oxygen, right? And so communicate with your own innate self-healing capacities. This is like language is a biological phenomena. And so languages or words or sensations are the primary way that our body communicates with us. But it communicates with us also in like our intuition and our affects, images, meanings, behaviors. So this module, I just teach all the different ways that our body is communicating with us so that we can better track our terrain. We can better reframe our symptoms into the remedies that they are, the therapies that they are, and that they are all understanding that our body is always in a healing phase. What phase is it in? And then the last module is the key somatic sovereignty skill. And this is understanding your what I call your somatic sequence. It's really what happens first, second, and third in your nervous system when you get triggered, so that you can better identify when you're going into a sympathetic arousal. And so if you're getting too much ozone, your body's going to start to tense up. Like, what are those signs when you're overdosing, you're doing too much ozone? So, and it's much far reaching than just ozone applications. All these things are basic somatic skills for somatic self-regulation, co-regulation, and conscious collaboration, which is what we need to be focused on as we build the new free world together. And then a bonus module here, I call it Ozone Magic. It's the 4 spells you must make and the 4 spells you must break to do superpowered self-healing. And these are really about our own autonomy and becoming our own best doctor. It's about stop giving away our authority to anyone, anywhere, and becoming completely self-reliant inside of ourselves. Yeah, so that's
wow.
That's basic.
Paula, you've done a lot of amazing work on this. Impressive. And just kind of throw back to last week's episode, Anastasia would really appreciate this, because what you're doing here is you're using this transmitting utility of ozone, right? That is the subconscious mechanism, and allowing for our thinking power, which is the energetic that runs the world, to properly function within us to self-heal. And because I was thinking about that as you were diving into this, as Bear was explaining ozone, it's like while you're doing the therapy, it's important to have the right mindset and the right state of mind and the right body feeling and everything, right? As that transmitting utility is coming through you, to shift your consciousness into the areas of healing, because that's what it's doing. Right. And then you hear of things like, Bear, I was curious too, like oxidative stress and free radicals and all of these things, which I've asked over the years. And like if you go look at anything on the mainstream in Google about ozone, the dangers of it, right? And how to aerate your room when you're doing it because of the free radicals that come off it. Could you guys touch on that a little bit as well, and really what's going on there and the confusion around that with mainstream science? Because I know a lot of people get concerned about that, right? With having to properly use ozone, and why is that even a reality? I personally believe it's because, like you were saying, people aren't in touch with their body and with their environment, and they're overdoing that subconscious transmitting utility, that energetic, and they're not ready for it. So they sort of like going to the gym. You don't just go into the gym for your first time ever and start trying to power lift 250, power squatting 500 pounds.
Exactly.
You got to work your way up to it. So that's sort of the analogy that I've used in the past. Is that correct? And Bear, I'd love your thoughts on that as well.
Basically, oxidative stress is how we sell nutritional supplements, because everything out there, and I'm guilty myself on a lot of our products. I say antioxidant activities just because it's a term that everybody's familiar with. But in reality, there's two main elements involved in oxidation. That's hydrogen. So you have oxidation and reduction. That gets back into some basic, kind of dumb chemistry kind of concepts. But it's not dumb in the sense that there is a such thing as those elements being in balance. And when you have too much of one or the other, not enough, in their terminology, reduction versus oxidation, then you can have an imbalance that can create, maybe a need for or maybe some supplements that would be helpful because they have known effects to rebalance, maybe an over tendency for oxidation. And it does happen that in our lifestyle with our technologies and things, it does create an imbalance more in one direction or the other. So, there's some truth to all this, but it boils down to balance. And then in oxidative therapies, not just taking, herbs and things that have antioxidant activity. You're talking about the two most popular modalities out there, which is ozone and hydrogen therapy. And they both have, in my mind, and experience an equal and valid place. I think everybody should be using both myself, but that's kind of oxidation reduction. Does that answer that at all?
Well, and also when you're thinking of the air element, because what trips me out is we think of oxygen, like you were saying, it's more the water, but we think of it as air. So we're kind of have a balance between the air, hydrogen, water, oxygen, air being the masculine, which is related to one off from fire. So it's still hot, right? So air is hot and wet. And then you have the water, which is cool and wet, which is the feminine. So we're balancing that masculine and feminine in a way, if you look at just from pure alchemy.
Yeah, and if you're looking at it as, Paula, you were mentioning Herxheimer reactions, which for people that don't understand is just too much cleansing too quick.
Yeah.
And creating an effect. And this might tie in with what you're asking, Mike. If you're doing proper biological or bioterrain medicine, you understand how to keep all the parts balanced with each other. Again, it's all about balance. Think about your you got a basement you've been meaning to clean out for years and it's way overdue, and you got to bring some stuff up through the living room first before it gets outside to the dump at the curb. So what you do is, all of a sudden you're bringing stuff up and now your living room is inundated. Well, it's good to kind of keep it going out the front door at the same time. If you're taking out too much too quick, your living room's going to get kind of stinky. So, the way I would practice Bioterrain medicine is you're always making sure all the emunctories are open, the drainage channels, you're able to prioritize which ones need help. And, you always take people where they're at. You never rush them along too quickly. And the same thing with oxidative therapies. It's always about balance. That's the key. I don't know. What do you think, Paula?
Yeah, I love how that you brought that forward and articulated that, Mike, and I appreciate everything that you just shared there. I would just add that we want to use the ozone to mildly stimulate oxidative stress, a little bit of oxidation. We want to consciously do that, but it's through our felt sense awareness, our sensory perceptions, that we're able to do that in a good way. Because what is a little dose for someone could be a huge dose for somebody else. Everybody is different. Everybody's terrain is different. So that's why the somatics is key to terrain-based ozone. And so we want to stimulate mildly the oxidative process, and then the body in turn creates its own antioxidants. It's the same thing with inflammation. When we use the ozone, it's going to stimulate an inflammatory response, but then the body creates anti-inflammatory markers and sends them in. So the balance, you're that exactly.
It's hitting that sweet spot before you hit the point of diminishing returns, and it's like that with everything in therapy. So, can you explain a little bit about what somatics means? I asked you this in our first talk too, and we talked about it a little bit. But if you wouldn't mind repeating a little bit, because that's a big part of your work. I'd like our audience to understand what that is.
Oh, thanks. Somatic, soma, just the Greek word for body. So the field of somatics is huge. It's in the SIC codes, the standard industry codes, because massage, that's in itself, it's an industry. So anything any modality that has to do with the body is a somatic modality. I've studied a variety of different somatic modalities and combined them all together. It's basically a body-based approach. Right? Instead of a top-down thinking approach, it's using a more bottom-up, brainstem up. I've got the 5 Ps that I call, it's purging your traumas and purifying yourself so that you can pave new paradigms in the present moment. So really, it's about going down the brainstem, going further down, deeper into ourselves. That's why we want to hook the upper brain with the lower brain and have that felt sense, whole brain conversation. That connection, that communication is how we trailblaze this new world. That's how we connect. That's how we open our biocosmic channels, is through the flesh. It's through the body. That's how we alchemize it all, is through the body. So what I am a proponent for and teach is that connection to the body and getting to know ourselves through embodied ways. And that's not predominant in our culture. It's not predominant in our language. I hooked up with Danny Katz at Music and Sky, and I'm like, oh, semantics. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, somatics and semantics are like 2 of the most important pieces that we need to reframe. The body and how we understand our body and communicate through our body, and how we understand and communicate through language, because they've both been hijacked, pre-programmed, and infiltrated. So we want to reclaim those. And so it's having these biological body-based conversations, and in all these number of ways that I teach people how to connect upper brain, lower brain. I'm more interested in upper brain, lower brain than the left brain, right brain thing. So I think that this is that's more interesting to me. And that subconscious territory is more fascinating to me. And I believe that's where most of the answers lie in, or live in us, to not only thriving through this 6th pending mass extinction, but thriving in it. It's plumbing that connection. So that happens somatically. We can't do it in our minds alone.
I love the vertical model, and it really makes more sense because, you know, our two brains, the heart and the mind, well, you could throw the gut in there too, which is just an extension. But, you know, what we're trying to do is come into balance by merging the heart and the mind and, you know, two different things. It's not really right, left. You know, we've got some equipment up there that is electrically wired to process in a certain way, but then we equate that with the mental plane, which are two different things, or the astral plane, again, two different things.
And
So
Bear,
I
we
love
also,
that.
on the left-right thing, we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. One of my sons was recently diagnosed with quote
Oh,
unquote
right.
dyslexia, right? Which is an inversion of the left-right, right-left. And we were talking about,
Which
it's
means he's smarter than the rest of us.
well, I will give props to the lady who we went to as a specialist. She's dyslexic, quote unquote, herself, and said that many are saying in these alternative channels that this is the quote unquote evolution of where we're going in terms of sort of the getting away from the linear cause and effect model of thinking towards a more spatial, she kind of called it quantum or fractal way that we compute and see the world. And so it's
Yeah.
challenging for those who have this to be able to read left to right or so on. Yeah, Bear, you're going to say.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say in that same conversation, Mike, you know, I was talking about people that I had bringing their kids to me when I was in practice with so-called, you know, diagnosis of dyslexia. And rather than trying to change the kid who was actually way above or beyond where most kids were, because, you know, so-called dyslexia just means that they're more difficult to program. You know, they don't just take the indoctrination as readily. So we would instead teach them how to deal in the outer world without altering the head start that they already had. And then also, you know, teaching the parents quite a bit as far as, you know, look, your kid doesn't have a problem. You just have to learn how to deal with it so that they can thrive out there without ruining the kid in the process. I love what you were saying, Paula, about semantics and somatics, because, you know, symptoms as they're described, you know, in different types of the health profession, it's really a matter of semantics. You know, on one side, we call it a healing mechanism. The other side, it's a disease. So when you're talking about somatics now, are you using exercises or body movements at the same time?
Sometimes, but mostly it's body-based inquiry, exploration, and discovery. So it's all through inquiry. And when we're in a state of inquiry, we're not in a state of assumption. And so when we start to, the mind starts to make stuff up, and as soon as it starts to tell a story, it's in that story, it's in that narrative, it's in a stuck place, right? Or it has a concept or an idea. And so when we stay in body-based inquiry, the body, we keep coming back to it. Well, people dissociate. It's like I just taught this class yesterday, and that's communicating with your innate self-healing. And it's like different words for different people, like prickly. Some that brought up like, for some people, they went into dissociation. They went into memories of, oh, the prickly pear I ate was really good, right? So everybody has different associations with different words, and different words mean different things to different people. And then there's the meaning, and then there's the belief, and then there's the identity. There's so much to unpack in just sensing our body and feeling the sensation and understanding that sensation of what it's doing in our body and all the different layers to it. So, I mean, these are like a lot, these are deep rabbit holes that we can go into. And if we choose to go into them, we're integrating our whole brain. And it's our whole brain that offers us whole system solutions as we're moving forward. It's this black and white and this separate either or. And we only 1 to 4% that we're aware of, and 95 to 99% that we're subconscious people. That's the juice. That's where it's going on. That's what I've been most fascinated with my whole life, is that subconscious territory and what one word could do to that subconscious territory and all the sequences that it can set off, either towards health or towards ill health.
So are you trying to help people locate where in their body they're feeling stuff? Is that what you mean?
Yes. Yes. As much as possible to stay feeling in the body is the key thing. You know, some people are pretty adept at feeling in their body. And I can work with them to swing more from the cosmic rafters, who we can take like higher level thinking and consciousness breakthroughs, and then ozonate and track that and how that gets elevated, and how we can elevate the spiritual divine connection through the body with the people that already have that body-based connection. So that's next level. That'll be the next master class is the somatics and esoterics of terrain ozone. Is taking it to the next level. And people at Music and Sky were getting this, getting this conversation. People are ready for it.
Well, at Music and Sky, we very much try to focus on body awareness in terms of what we're doing with a lot of workshops and things, with obviously with dance, with traditional things like yoga and qigong and stuff like that, but trying to introduce more body-based, somatic-focused elements to the event. We'll be bringing in more what do you call it? Rope work and but swinging stuff and acro stuff, and that's a focus we want to bring in next go around. The children really love that. So being more free flowing with your body. I was recently listening to Joel Schaefer, who's been on Alfacast, who was at Music and Sky. I don't know if, Bear, you got to see him when you were there. Remember Joel? He's lives in Montana. He's really being a force with bringing the shamanic arts back to the West. And he was talking about how important somatics is in this day and age, with how much the system is manipulating the minds of people through technology and through this sort of fake etheric realm, right, of the digital simulacrum. I think more than ever, we need somatics because of the state of the world through social media and through everybody's black mirrors on their phone, to get back in touch with our body reality. And because that directly connects us to our emotions, right, into the feeling side, the feminine. So that is a great foundation you're setting there, Paula.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that so much. It reminds me of this, what I call the race to the bottom of the brainstem. I watched some Joe Rogan podcast years ago, and Tristan Harris, who used to be an ethicist at Google, came on, and he said that there's a race to the bottom of the brainstem.
Ethicist at Google. Sorry, you got me there.
Right. Well, he actually left Google and he started the like some kind of group to ethics for technology or something like that. So
maybe he left when they took off the "do no evil" mantra from there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do believe, I said, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm hearing somebody say that, because I've always believed there's a race to the bottom of the brainstem, and that is what I'm here for. I contracted for early life trauma as early as possible so that I could spend my whole life plumbing my brainstem and purging my traumas and purifying myself so that I can pave new paradigms in this present moment and be here right now with the level of experience that I have. I'm super passionate about this. This is what I'm here for. But there is a race. There's the bifurcation of the worlds, and that synthetic AI, that's what they call the singularity. That's a synthetic, right? And they're doing that through all of these technologies. And it is neck and neck. It's a predestined, I believe, parallel process to push humanity into plumbing their own brainstems. I'm learning remote viewing and Akashic reading and biocosmic channeling. These are skills that are imperative for us to learn right now. And Ozone superpowers all those skills. So we are neck and neck. It's time to, purge our traumas. It's time for us to go down that brainstem. And by the way, I don't know if this makes any sense to you, but I was doing my adaptive contrast oxygen training. I've been doing this for over 10 years. And I got down to 43 blood O2 the other day. My heart rate was at 160. I'm down at 43. I was like, whoa, how did I get there? That was my record. So I'm trying to get,
Can you explain what?
Huh?
Can you explain exactly what that is for the folks out there?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, it's this big, huge reservoir of oxygen. It's 95% oxygen. I got a corner of it that's 15% oxygen. And you can put a non-rebreather mask on and flush your body and go back and forth between the two. Mm-hmm. So I get my heart rate up. So I'm using my own cardiovascular pump, and I'm pushing 95% oxygen, right? Then I flick it on low, run up a hill, get the heart rate up. And as I'm going up the hill and I'm on low oxygen, I'm also holding my breath and doing things with my breath in different ways so that I can drive the blood oxygen down, right? So as the farther down that I go, I'm carving into my tissues. I'm carving into my subconscious. I'm oxidizing memories and conflicts and traumas down in the brainstem. And as a somatic trauma practitioner, it's a very accelerated way to help people process traumas without having all this psychotherapeutic stuff at the top on the top brain. We can just go down. I teach them how to use it so they can go down as far as they want or can, and then they can flick it on high. And then those areas that they just pulled all that oxygen out of, you flick it on high, and then all of a sudden 95% rushes right into those same cells, those same tissues you just opened up. And we get these brownouts in our bodies when we go into somatic stress patterns. So then we have these constrictions. We all have different ones, different places and different organs and different tissues. So as you carve down deeper, you pull the oxygen out, it's going to go into those areas deeper and deeper. As you pull it out, the lower you go, the higher you get. Right. So, yeah, it was hard to sleep for a couple of days. Yeah.
So it's kind of like EWAT training, only with a variable regulator.
It basically is EWAT training. Yeah. Then I go sit in the ozone sauna, right? So it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's like 1 + 1 = 11. It's exponential when you combine these things. So I'm actually doing a whole lot more here in my studio, but I'm really focused on helping as many people to get their own home ozone generators and learn how to use them and to become their own best doctor. Because you can get a PromoLife generator that will be warranted for life. And you can take my private masterclass for what, $647. That's less than it costs for an average intake with an ozone doctor with no treatments. So you can, if you got a periodontal situation, or you got an emergency visit, you got something that happens with your health, you could get your own home ozone therapy system and take my private masterclass for less than it would cost for one of these situations, much less. So you can save a lot of money. You can learn to heal yourself and your loved ones, and you can pass on the technology, and you can pass on the generator. So
you won't have to go in and contract with the beasts.
Right, right. I mean, Justin Leslie, I called him one night just to check in with them, and he was in the emergency room.
Oh God.
And he had a corneal ulcer, and they're telling him, we need to cut your eye, and we need to put the antibiotics and all these chemicals in there. He's just like, no, no, no. And he was in there, he was having issues with them. And so I said, look, you can get your own home ozone generator system, and you can make your own salinated eye drops, Justin, and you can do it all yourself, just like this, right? A little kit. Yep. Right. So that's what he did. He became his own best doctor. He healed his eye. We overnighted him an ozone machine. Like, how much money, like if he had that and he was prepared, he wouldn't have been in the ozone. He wouldn't have been in the ER. So this is really, I mean, and as far as apps, can I just show you a couple things?
I mean, yeah, my son
Absolutely.
just came. Mateo, the dyslexic one, Mateo, he's clearly next level. He's the one that's always in the gunk. He's always in the dirt. So he came in my ear. Bear's treated him in the past with quote unquote ear infection. He tends to have an ear that flares up because he can be quite unbalanced sometimes. And he's a manifester. So he's always creating, but he's kind of go. So anyways, I have the PromoLife ozone machine. I did an insufflation in his ear, and all it took was one treatment. I followed a protocol online on the site, and boom, he's right as rain. Where before that could end up becoming a total issue where we'd have to go see Bear. And he would have done the same thing. And so I'm feeling very empowered now that as a father, as a parent, that like, hey, I got this, I can't tell you how amazing that feels as a parent to not have to give into authority to the quote unquote, medical experts.
That's great, Mike. I love hearing that. And so many people, the ears and the vagina are the two areas you don't want to overdose on. They're easy to overdose on. And the germ theory dose, people are coming into my classes from all these ozone manufacturers, right? And they're getting told they're way overdoing it. And they're having all these, reactions. And it's not healthy to jack the system too much at once. What I
do is I bubble it through ozone and go really light there. What I did for him when I do.
You bubble it through water?
I mean, through oil. Sorry, through olive oil.
Oh, right. Oh, wow. Brilliant, Mike. That's
Yeah.
great.
So it's just really, really light and
Soft.
very,
Yeah.
very soft. Yeah.
That's so great.
And if you want to throw germs into the mix and understand that microbes in our body are little elemental helpers, and then that gets an isopathic therapy. So if you, for instance, go back to your friend with the eye issue and you're using ozone there, now you put a couple drops of mucor in there, which are the organisms that live inside of us and are responsible for maintaining proper microcirculation. Now you're assisting the ozone on a biological level. So, when you get into mixing and matching with the different elements that are already maintaining the bioterrain, you start getting super results. And everybody can do that themselves at home too.
Yeah.
But just like ozone, you don't want to take isopathics in the hands of somebody that maybe doesn't understand it and have them give themselves an injection. Then all of a sudden, going the other direction. But, all these things are available for home use and, in a form that's not going to be too much and really help people resolve probably 99% of all their issues.
Paula,
Yeah.
I've been bubbling oil so much that
Oh,
this
great.
actually is ozonated oil that I made myself.
Great.
Super concentrated. I keep it in the
Yep.
refrigerator. And actually, um, I recently, before Music and Sky, bit my lip really bad, just in a meeting and eating and talking, and it got really, really nasty. From all the stress probably leading to the event. So this saved me because I was started applying this and I was doing some UT as well and some other things, but it was this ozonated oil that I made myself. And I was thinking, I have some from Promo Life too, I bought, but this seemed more effective. And I think it was because I created this myself, right? So I was bubbling this myself through my consciousness. This stuff knows me.
Yeah.
And so it works phenomenal. And actually I did it again a couple of days ago. I bit inside my lip. And so I've been using it again right now. That's why I had it out. So ozonated oil for oral implementation is phenomenal. I can't say enough how great this stuff is.
Yeah. And your kids, right? I mean, if you have kids, cavities, if you get them started on drinking ozonated water early, you can also teach them how to ozonate their teeth with a little dental pick. It's really easy to do. Then you can alleviate any kind of the growth of cavities if you start in early. I mean, once you drill a tooth, you're going to be drilling and filling it the rest of your life. That's a profit model. So if you're a parent, ozonating, you're helping your kids learn how to ozonate their teeth is a no-brainer. I mean, just right there, that one application is worth a machine in a class, right? There's so many different ways that we can save money. In fact, on my website, the Superpowered Self-Healing Club website, there's a free PDF, the 10 ways to heal faster and to save money using ozone. So there's just a lot of different ways to do it, but just knowing that the 99.9% of the information out there is based in germ theory and killing that whole disposition and attitude. So just to be aware of that for everybody that's listening.
I was recently watching There Will Be Blood, Paul Thomas Anderson's amazing film about that oil baron who's drilling into the earth. And I was thinking about dentists being like the oil barons of our mouth as they drill for their gold. It's insanity, right? That model just repeats everywhere from the 20th century. It's great to be moving away from that. I can't tell you.
And for physicians who are comfortable with giving injections, just for anybody that's listening out there, I did a lot of those in practice where I do buccal injections into the mouth and, really reverse a lot of things. I'd also make cocktails with isopathics along with the ozone. And, that's what you would categorize as biological dentistry. And we really need more dentists out there that are clued in. I really like that applicator. I need to get one from Promo Life. Anyway, I'll talk to you about
the
that
tooth
later.
one. That one looked really cool. Could you show that again, Paula?
Yeah, I love this thing. You guys, I was quoted $2,400 in periodontal treatments. They wanted to do 4 surgeries and 4 different appointments. And I thought, you know what? No way. I bought this from Promo Life. It's 99 bucks. Let's see here. It's just a little flathead kind of needle on the top. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So you just go up and around like this, go around each of, your teeth, You can go around, go down to the bottom. You have a little pocket, you can put it right in there. I also like to just use it blunt like this. So I can just go up and around here like this and go around, get my tongue up around.
And when you're doing that, are you bubbling that through water?
No,
Or
for the mouth, I go straight.
go straight.
Just
Okay.
go straight in. I put a little fan on. Your
What
mouth is
setting,
gonna.
what settings do you typically do?
It depends on what I'm doing. And so 30, 35, somewhere in there. But if I'm just teaching somebody or just starting, start really low. So because you don't want to breathe it in. If you breathe it in, you're going to have a bad experience. So put a fan on. I have like a washcloth, and I kind of put it over my nose, and I'll just go like this. I have a little bowl underneath because my mouth is going to start to it's going to start to sell a lot of saliva, and it'll just cut. So I just kind of let it drip out, and I just keep going like 5 minutes. I did like 5 minutes a day for almost every day for about a month and a half. My whole periodontal situation was fine. I went back. He's like, "What'd you
It's
do?"
amazing.
I said,
Yeah.
"Ozone." He's like, "Wow, oh my gosh, that's amazing." It's like, yeah, well, if you would be teaching your people how to do this rather than to go in through 4 painful $2,400, for $2,400, like I said, you could get your own home ozone system from Permalife and take my private master class and learn how to do everything for less than that. And you could treat yourself and your family for the rest of your life, not just dentally, but, like systemically. There's just so much that you can do with ozone, like, ear insufflations. You got the ear scopes, right, Mike? You see these little things right here. Hang on a second. Oops. Like this, you can just do little ear insufflations. It's very parasympathetic. Most everybody just starts to relax. It just kind of goes blub, 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 blub. 5-10 minutes, they feel more, their brain syncs up and they feel more connected and whole. They feel more relaxed. The intestinal insufflations, I understand we can get just as much ozone in through our intestine into our blood as we can just putting into needles, right? And it's less invasive, and we can do it ourselves, and it's more slow dose over time. We can control it more. We'll have less reaction.
I actually favor that. I spent a few years where I was doing the major autologous therapy where I'd take blood out and dope it in ultraviolet and drip it back in. And I stopped doing it because you need an anticoagulant, and because I couldn't get any heparin that was made in the States anymore. It's coming from China and all, contaminated and everything. So I stopped doing that, and I started just instead ozonating marine plasma, by the liter, and then I dripped that in instead. But then after a while, I even pretty much abandoned that, so I wouldn't need any IVs. And if I could talk somebody into getting a machine and convince them, which is true, that they could do daily insufflations themselves and over a long time get probably a superior effect than just going in and getting one major purging at once and spending a lot of money. Not only would they be able to, get superior effects, but also spend a lot less money than coming to me and having to go through, all the complicated and invasive procedures. So
how does that work?
That's a wonderful thing.
How do you do the intestine?
Which one?
How do you do the
Right
intestine?
here. Oh, here's an intestinal insufflation bag, right?
Mike, maybe you could demonstrate this for us.
So is this through the anus?
Yeah.
Yes.
You have a catheter. Oh. The catheter looks about the same size as this. So it's a very thin tube, right? And you're going to put the catheter probably, 6-8 inches. Super easy. Some people have psychologically a little bit difficulty getting into this because they're like, no, stuff comes out of there and it's supposed to go in. But a lot of people in AV community are used to coffee enemas and doing different enemas. It's like a gas enema. And when you start, you only start with like 200 milliliters, which is like that. It's like a little sandwich bag. It's like a fart. It's really super easy, right? And then you graduate up to like 400 milliliters, like that much, right? And then you'll finally get to like be able to handle 750 milliliters, right? But one of my clients
termed it fart injections, so I use that forevermore there. But you just have to kind of hold the gas in for about 20 minutes, and it's not uncomfortable. And go ahead, Mike.
Oh, that you answered my question. How long? So it goes up, whoop, up the deal like an enema, but instead of liquid, you have gas up there, and then you just walk around with it. You don't feel like you have like gas cramps or anything?
Some people do.
Yeah.
Some people can't hold it very
It's
long.
not bad.
I think I call it, you're gaining intestinal fortitude because those peristaltic waves will be like, oh, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, and you just kind of hold it in. I feel like I'm gaining muscle. I'm gaining intestinal fortitude and strength. I think that
Just
translates.
Definitely.
just do your Kegels.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I mean, I understand that when you put it in intestinally, it goes straight to your portal vein, straight to your liver, straight to your blood. It's systemic. If I've got anything going on in my sinuses, the second I start pushing any ozone gas into my rectum, instantaneously I can feel it in my sinuses. It's really amazing.
Very
And
powerful.
Well, it's a connected tube.
what?
It's a connected tube. It's one continuous mechanism.
And so for like, if you go to a doctor and you get a blood treatment with ozone, I believe that oftentimes those are just way too much too fast. It jacks the system. The system then has to compensate and come back. And so it's so much better to go low and slow over time.
Yeah.
And so that you can really work with your terrain. And so that, and what is low and slow for one is not low and slow for another. And one blood treatment to go get a consultation with an ozone doctor and one blood treatment, you could get your own home ozone therapy system, take my private masterclass and learn it all and pass it all on and share it. The more people that have this technology and know how to use it, the better. We're going into divine cataclysm. Think about Maui. If 100 people had ozone generators over there and knew how to use them, how that whole catastrophe over there the people over there could have been supported with all that smoke and inhalation and all of the crap in the air and all the stress they were under.
Not to mention, for those who have dealt with flooding or that kind of stuff, like when we had the power out for 2 weeks here from the fires and the fridge reeked, you can use ozone to cleanse, right? It's amazing how you can like cleanse stinky stuff. Like, I mean, there's so many applications that are beyond even the body, but for those like dealing with quote unquote brain fog or Lyme, right? The intestinal process there seems like that would make a lot of sense to you to do that.
And these Promo Life generators, I asked Toby, I was going down to it was Cielos Music and Sky. I was going down there. I said, look, I'm gonna be talking about ozone, or I brought my ozone machine down there. I said, I need a cable. I need to be able to, these are off-grid people. So he developed a cable. So you can just plug it right into the back of your generator. I'll show you what a generator looks like. This is what a single elite generator from Promo Life. It's just a small little box. And you can plug it right into the back. You can take this little, it looks like jumper cables, and you can connect it to any battery that, like a car battery or any battery that's like a car battery, so that you can basically be doing ozone anywhere, anytime, under almost any circumstance. And I think that's what we need to be, is ready to oxygenate ourselves. I mean, there's so much happening in our blood and through our blood that that the powers that are trying to accomplish through our blood. And ozone affects straight the oxygenation level of our blood, and it can oxidize things that we don't want, and metabolize and eliminate. Yeah, there's so much to it. There's so many different applications to it. And I do Q&As regularly about it. And so after this podcast, I've got a Q&A tomorrow for anybody that's listening that's interested. They can just go to SUPERPOWERED Self-Healing Club, and you get the link right there. So at 4:00 Pacific Standard Time on Friday, August 2nd, I'm doing another one on Monday, August 5th at 4:00 Pacific Daylight Time. And if there's interest, I'll just keep doing more if the Alfa Vedic community wants to engage, so that I can just be there to answer your questions and go deeper into whatever you want to know about it.
Love it. So go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just going to say, we have your link for your class as well at alfavedic.com/superpowered. So for those who are interested in learning with Pola and going through this coursework or engaging with the Q&A, that's a simple link through, and they get a discount, I believe, and we get some referral there. So alfavedic.com/superpowered. And then we're also offering, Alfa Vedic's offering a number of solutions that are on our site. And that's also in the show notes below. It's a new page we created that has 3 different technologies that we're offering that are both the Promo Life Ozone, the Lord's Hydrofix Premium Edition Pure Hydrogen Machine, and then of course we still are working with the AquaCure and with the Brown's gas machine. So 3 powerful tools that are all very much needed. Bear, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to put that in perspective. We're offering all 3 for the following reasons. Ozone, I believe, maybe should be the first one because it has most versatility for a lot of conditions and things that people might need for a home first aid kit. Hydrogen is, if we go up to that etheric understanding, it's that initial spark. Think of it as regeneration. So if you're low in hydrogen, then what's going to happen is you're going to lack that ability to regenerate in the first place. Now, once you have adequate hydrogen, and these play in with each other because if you have adequate oxygenation, you're not going to have an imbalance in the biome and microorganisms. And those organisms are in turn going to produce in the gut hydrogen. So they, you need them all. Now, when you are lacking that hydrogen, then again, your tissues lack the ability to regenerate themselves. So, for instance, with dental issues, if you combine the 2, for instance, while you're breathing hydrogen gas and then you let it build up in your mouth and hold it moments at a time, it's going to really stimulate those oral tissues to be able to regenerate themselves. And at different times you do the ozone, and that's going to do what ozone does, everything we've been talking about. So they're really mutual supportive. And, we need both of them, and they've both been tampered with, not only in our bodies, but in the world outside of us. Now, the reason why we have the AquaCure, which is actually Brown's gas, which is a certain percentage of hydrogen with a little bit of oxygen, it's because I feel it's superior. All the data supports it, clinical experience versus just pure hydrogen. However, pure hydrogen is amazing if you just have a pure hydrogen machine. The only drawback with the AquaCure is it does take not a big deal, I don't think, but it takes a little bit of maintenance and maybe a little bit less easy to travel with if you want to take it with you. So the Lord's Hydrofix is a pure hydrogen. I keep that going with me here because you can put it on standby and just have hydrogen water all day long. It's over to the side of me here, and you can see my AquaCure in the back. So I use all 3 of these things. Again, if I were to suggest any, thing, if somebody can only afford one, I'd say get your ozone machine. Next would be the AquaCure. If the AquaCure doesn't work with your lifestyle, then get the Hydrofix Lord's Pure Hydrogen, which is the top selling and most respected pure hydrogen machine in Japan, where all this stuff started in the first place. So I just didn't want to confuse people like, well, why do you have all 3? It's because I couldn't live without any of them myself.
I'm hitting the Brown's gas as we speak now. And what I like about the AquaCure is it's kind of like maintenance too. You can just run it for an hour I usually do 33% at 432 Hertz, but it's great because
I thought I'd join you, Mike.
in. We're all looking like cancer patients now. Yeah, it's what I love about it is it's I feel like it's not quite as acute as ozone, right? So you can kind of just play with it and have it as a sort of a maintenance and maintaining your optimum levels. And then when I really need that oxygen boost and that etheric sort of intonation of consciousness, if you will, I'll hit the ozone. I'll bubble it through the olive oil. But phenomenal. And then the hydrogen machine, I can't wait to get, because I love drinking hydrogen water. It is phenomenal. So yeah, all three must have for me.
I thought it would be fun if we all did this whole podcast with our nasal cannulas in. I showed it up a couple when I got on this morning with Mike before you got here, Bear. Mike had his cannula in, and I said, "Oh, right, getting healthy, right?" He says, "Yeah, a lot of people think that it's like I look like a cancer patient, I look like I'm sick or something." And it's like, yeah, it's like a mind bender. It's like everything's been inverted. I show up to meetings sometimes early in the morning after staying up really late, and I plug into bubbled ozone through olive oil because it just de-inflames my brain, and I just get really clear in my prefrontal cortex, and it just energizes my system, and it's really proactive. It also, I think, it mitigates the whole EMF situation of being in front of this computer for as much as I have been lately.
Just one final note with the ozone, you do need an oxygen source. So would you recommend oxygen tanks, which is, needs a little bit of a story behind that, or would an oxygen generator suffice? What do you prefer?
Oh, such a great question. And yeah, I recommend wholeheartedly industrial grade oxygen, and I only recommend industrial grade oxygen. And here's why: because an oxygen concentrator needs electricity, they're loud, and if when the grid goes down, you can't use it. Yeah, right. And so then an oxygen tank, I recommend you can get an industrial grade oxygen tank. They operate just like propane. So you just go buy a tank, and then you have it filled, you take it home filled up, you use it, you bring it back, and you swap it out. Go to a local welder supply store, always buy local when you can. Don't get a prescription oxygen. You don't need it, because industrial grade oxygen and medical grade oxygen are filled from the same source, and they're both 99.9% pure. The only difference that I understand is the lining in the tank. And so welder's oxygen has to be pure oxygen. It's quiet, and it takes very little bit of oxygen to make therapeutic grade ozone. And so you're off grid, it's silent, you're getting the purest quality of ozone, therapeutic grade ozone, because you're using 99.9% oxygen. You don't need any prescription for it. You can do all of this yourself. And that's the whole point, is becoming a self-reliant and doing everything ourselves. So
I went to like a local mom and pop, like hardware welder supply store in Brookings, and rolled in there, and they just hooked me up with the tank, and they didn't ask and I even was like, "Hey, I'm doing this for ozone," because they're like kind of like whatever, And so, but yeah, you can go to like what's it called, gas? It's like a commercial
air gas or Prax Air.
Air gas. But if you can, go to like a local mom and pop and support them. And I know, Bear, you have your own tank, right? You want to go get filled. Now, in the fire department too, I could go and just fill it there, but I didn't want to tap on their oxygen because we're a small department. But yeah, and you're right, it lasts forever, huh?
Yeah, if you don't forget to turn it off. And another thing is, it's like
which oxygen, I always do and run out. Yeah,
oxygen hookah. So if your boys are stressed, or like anybody's like, having a stress attack, anxiety, anything like that, you just go over, turn your oxygen tank on, full on, 5 liters per minute, whatever. Take 10 long, slow, deep breaths, hold the breath and let it just fill up the lungs, and just long 10 slow, deep breaths of pure oxygen can help calm the whole system down. And
well, that's what we do on fire calls when on trauma, victims and stuff. Get them oxygen right away.
Yep. Right. It works amazing. So there's a lot you can do. And women, we can do oxygen facials. You know how much money you have to pay for an oxygen facial? Oh my gosh. I went to Safeway and got this little cake cover. It's like plastic, because I didn't want to buy the mask. I didn't want to see how this is going to go. And I just stuck a couple of oxygen tubes in there and put it over my face like this. And I had just washed it and scrubbed it like this. Oh my gosh, my face looked so great. Oxygen facial, you guys, and it doesn't take much at all to do. It's very easy. There's a lot.
If you do that with if you do that with every night putting castor oil on your skin, it's better than Botox by a long shot. You're going to look great and everything. So I like having my own tank. I get a medical grade tank, and then I just drop it off. Then I go back and pick it up. I just, kind of like having my own tank, and I know where it's been, and
Yep.
rather than just getting swapped out for one of theirs. But that's just me. And fathom the idea that you need a prescription to get oxygen.
It's really, really hard to get. Really hard to get.
I know.
I finally got a prescription. Or I bought an ozone sauna from this naturopath who moved his office, didn't have space for it, and didn't really use it that much. And I said, "Oh, can you get me a prescription for oxygen?" And he said, "Yeah." Then I finally got a prescription, and then my insurance wouldn't cover it. And it was like, what? They make it so impossible. They classify it as a drug that needs to be regulated. And because they think that we're going to overuse it. No, it's a conscious living substance. It's completely misunderstood. It's one of the things I'm super passionate about, is helping people to create the right relationship with both ozone and oxygen. And it's like any other relationship, you develop it with over time and through experience. And so it's understanding ozone and oxygen as living relationship. It's creating a relationship with them. It's very different than what you're seeing out there on the web. It's an essential relationship, an elemental relationship, and one that will change your life if you get into it.
Brilliant.
Beautiful, Paula. Well, thanks so much for this stimulating conversation. I knew it would be. You're such a spark of just energy and light. We appreciate you so much. And as I've said at multiple Music in Skies, your transformation over the last 4 years is one of the most beautiful I've witnessed in my life. From where you were in, during the peak of the nonsense 2020 at the first Music in Sky, to where you are now, bringing these solutions to the world. It's inspiring, and it's heart lifting, and we love you so much. Thanks for all you do. Once again, guys, the links in the show notes below. Please go check out her superpowered course, and if you feel compelled, join her in the upcoming Q&As. And then, of course, you can go to alfavedic.com, and under the Bioterrain section, or under our partners section, you can go to Promo Life and get hooked up on their sovereignty package. You put a couple of these packages together for our community, which is really cool. You've done the work for them, and I know you're very open and available to answer questions as well related to that product, which we really appreciate. Paula, any final last statement, remark, or anything to cover before we close this out today?
Nothing, no, just thank you so much for inviting me here to be with you today, to talk about what I'm so passionate about. And I'm so grateful to be part of this community, to know both of you. I have learned so much from both of you, and or each of you. And I can looking forward to learning more. And I'm basically I've put together a whole list of your Alfa Vedic podcasts, your Alfacasts, that I would like to include. I think that's okay. I'll just ask right now, in the Superpowered Self-Healing Club library, because you've laid a beautiful alchemical foundation and a deep dive into areas that I don't get into in my training. So I hope that you would be an adjunct teacher in there. If I can I put your Alfa Vedic podcasts in there?
We would be honored.
Great. Thank you so much. I love you both so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
Love you a lot too. And so fun seeing you just a few weeks ago at Music in Sky. And it was a reconnection, because you were up here at the farm a couple of years before that. So you know where we are. Things have changed quite a bit on the farm up here. So come visit with us anytime. We'd love to see you.
Well, thank you. And I'd love to have you down, each of you. Bring your families and hang out and do my check out the adaptive contrast oxygen training, then the ozone sauna, and then ozone wherever you want to put it.
Now where are you now, Sebastopol, or you're still out in what? Yeah. Okay.
I'm between Sebastopol and Bodega Bay. I'm about 15 minutes from the Sonoma coast. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm in the countryside, down the end of a private lane, just this beautiful little self-healing spa retreat. And I'd love to host you both, and your kids or your family I call it the maximum lifetime oxygenation experience. To stack, pack, and track
Awesome.
that the ozone and the oxygen combined together. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
A
Yeah, Mike, I've
beautiful
been
part
just
of the
purging
world
the
there.
traumas out of my brainstem using these technologies. And Music and Sky and Alfa Vedic have just been key support systems for me in all of the inner work that I've been doing. And I just love you and your communities that you've created.
Well, thank you.
And we'll have to, I'd love to try out the old ozonated pool thing that you do as well. So swimming in the pool, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we
Oh yeah,
won't
that's next level, Mike, for
we
sure.
won't need to touch on that on the show. That's for another episode.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, Paula, thanks so much. And yeah, can't wait to see you again. And everybody go check out her links in the show notes below. And hey, we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, 10 a.m. Pacific time. And then I'll be off for Australia. Bear gets to take a little bit of a vacation. I'll be going to the Living Free Festival out there with Alex Zek. I'm flying out there with him. Cal Washington, who I believe you know, Paula will be there. Daniel Roytis, who will be on Alfacast in September, who's doing great work there, will be there. And of course, Tom Barnett and the whole Living Free crew. So that'll be fun. So we'll be taking a bit of time off while I'm out there. But hey, you can catch up with us at alfavedic.com /join-us. That's our private community platform where we're on every day. If you're not on there yet, go check it out. It's a really awesome place in the private. Paula, are you in there? I believe I
Alpha
set you
Vedic, a Telegram.
on the private, no, on the private platform in the community platform.
Yeah, I'm such a boomer with technology. I'd like to participate more in both Music and Sky and Alpha Vedic. If there's some way that I can reach out to those communities and offer all of this and be supportive in anybody that wants to imbibe in the oxygen or ozone. Yeah, I am.
I
think
believe you are, but I will double check. I'd love to give you a lifetime membership, and I don't know if we have an ozone channel or ozone hydrogen channel set up, a group, but we could set that up and have you in there as one of the admins and really have that be a deep dive place to go to for people who have questions and who want to know more, because it's in the private and it's a secure place. And I know you would really enjoy, a lot of people in there. So I will double check on that. I feel like you already have a membership. If not, I'll send you a link for that. And guys, yeah, come join us over there. It's a lot of fun. We actually now have a group that's the post-show group there. So we have chats about the Alfacast once it's over, which we just started. So a lot of good stuff happening in the technological realm when we do it the right way and we do it in balance. Okay, Paula, well, we'll let you go off to your beautiful land down there in Sonoma, and we're going to get outside and go jump in the river ourselves. So peace,
Awesome.
everybody. Love ya. We'll see you next week. Cheers.